Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, we just want to introduce you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Twitter handle at Mugs NFL. They're a company that offer a range of custom items such as mugs, t-shirts, crewneck jumpers, and hoodies, all customized with your favorite sports player or your sports team. That can be any sport ranging from the NFL through to the NBA to UK sports. All you have to do for an extra 10% off your order is drop them a message on Twitter quoting our podcast, that is the Hardwood Hoops podcast, and they'll get 10% off your next order. Cheers and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. This is episode 23, and it's a delayed episode 23 because we haven't been with you for a while. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Ben Jones. How you doing, bud?
Hello, good to be back.
Good. Yeah, just a little kind of apology. Ben's gone back to work now. I had a family holiday, and with Wi-Fi and a few issues, we couldn't really record consistently in the last 10 days or so, but we're back now. Had a little mini break, so we're refreshed and ready to go for NBA Finals, mate.
Yes, scheduling issues, but I've been keeping up with the latest, the basketball, and all the going on in the NBA. It's time to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Time to talk about it, and then we're going to be full on as well as every week in the off season as well, going through all that, and then leading up to next year, which we'll talk about in a bit. So that'll be exciting. But let's kind of start the pod as always, especially after a little break, and go through some news. We had some breaking news today, mate, that I shared with you. I think maybe last night that I shared with you on the old WhatsApp. Billy Donovan confirmed as the new Bulls coach. I know on my podcast with Joe, he kind of mentioned Billy Donovan as an option for a young team like the Bulls. So yeah, kind of deal done. Allegedly getting paid very, very well. We don't know the full details, but nice contract for him. And I think maybe a great move for the Bulls, but I'm not sure how great it is if Billy Donovan wants to win a championship anytime soon. But what are your thoughts on this move?
Well, yeah, they're not championship contenders now, but you look up and down that roster, and there is a lot of potential there. There's some really solid building blocks. Zach LaVine has played very well this season. Lauri Markkanen has so much potential. There's some players on that Chicago squad with new management as well up above, plus this new coach. It could take them in a massively positive direction, and they're not going to be championship contenders in the next 2 to 3 years probably, but depending on how long his tenure is, he could see them through to a championship at some point. There's no reason why that Chicago team, like with his coaching, he can't come in and have an immediate impact and get them like low-level playoff seed, definitely. So I think it's a good move if he doesn't want success straight away.
Yeah, so it's a thumbs up from both of us overall, I think, for the Bulls organization. Like you said, then in terms of the playoffs, obviously they're an Eastern Conference team, and we kind of harp on, don't we, about the East being weaker. So maybe short-term wise, he can get this team into the playoffs in the next year or two at worst, which would be a huge positive, wouldn't it, for Bulls fans, because they've had some dross to watch in the last couple of years. And I think the players as well haven't enjoyed playing over the last two seasons under two different coaches. So I think the players and the young players, and Zach LaVine's already said himself that how excited he is to work with Billy. So I think that a positive step forward for the Bulls, and that's one job gone. I know we've spoken about the kind of head coach merry-go-round this summer, and that's one off the board already.
Merry-go-round, I think it's more of a roller coaster.
Oh, a roller coaster, very good word. Yeah, I'm scared of roller coasters, so I could just about cope with the merry-go-round. So I left that one there. But yeah, good hire. OKC's lost, but we'll have to see how this summer goes. And obviously they've got another draft pick coming, so we'll see what Donovan does with that. Moving on to kind of another couple of bits of coaching news. First, it's been a while since we recorded, so I don't know if we mentioned it before, but D'Antoni's officially left Houston Rockets. and today he's emerged as a lead candidate for the 76ers. Kind of a team we thought, Ben, didn't we, that would be after him. I know he's linked with the Pacers as well, but apparently he's very high on Philly's list, and so is Ty Lue. What are your thoughts on kind of D'Antoni himself and whether he'd be a good fit for Philly, or do you think that personally he should maybe move to a different team with less stars, maybe in the Pacers?
Yeah, D'Antoni's got links with Philly. Wasn't he an assistant coach there for a little while?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
First of all, before I talk about Philly and the Pacers, I'm worried for Houston now. His style of play is just 100% invested in his team and the way he's made it up. Now he's leaving. Can anybody step in and work with the pieces he's got? I mean, they could trade for a big and try and fit someone else's style, but they've kind of put all their eggs in one basket, and now the chickens left the hen house. So, thank you. I just made that up. So what are they going to do? Like, fair play to D'Antoni after the remarks from management. Good for him for stepping away. Like, they've obviously made him feel not very important when actually he's hugely important to that team and that organisation and the way they play. So I think fair play to him, and he's going to get a ton of money somewhere else. I think definitely. So he's going to be fine.
Yeah. I think just a little thing to add to what you said there. Apparently, an article came out today that the Houston Rockets were clueless and unprepared for Mike D'Antoni's departure. So, kind of, it's obviously took them a surprise, like you said, and kind of affected how they built this team, and they kind of maybe had a plan for the future with the pieces they've got, and this has kind of thrown everything open. So, the Rockets could be a surprise team to maybe underperform next year with this news.
Yeah, again, massively depends on who they get in and how they want to play. I mean, I think James Harden has proved how adaptable he can be. He's had team roles where he's been the point guard, the assister type. He's had ones where he's just a scorer. He's had ones where he does a bit of absolutely everything. So I think James will be fine. It's just the players he's got around him to support him. That's going to be the trickiest part. In terms of D'Antoni and Philly, I think it could work, but not with Embiid. He's
interesting.
He's too slow in that system to play the way that D'Antoni likes to play. I think the whole team is. It's a big, slow, heavy team, really. They have to make wholesale changes to that roster.
Do you not think that there's a chance D'Antoni could adjust that offense, kind of maybe like he did when he was in New York before, and maybe not play the same way we're used to seeing Houston, and just kind of reinvent himself a little bit with the pieces they've got? Or you just think maybe it's not fit, and maybe Ty Lue, in terms of coaching experience, could be the best option just because he can manage the personalities without changing the system too much?
I'd like to see D'Antoni. I would like to see this D'Antoni go to Philly. I'd be so interested to see how he sets it up, how the style he gets the players playing, the way he gets them moving as a team, and the offense he creates. I think it's so much more interesting than Ty Lue going in, because I think you're right. Ty Lue will manage the personalities, but he won't necessarily put in the right, I don't know, coaching staff and plays. Although he was good in Cleveland, how much of that was him and how much of that was coached from the floor?
Yeah, they might play very, very similarly, mightn't they, to how we've seen them in the past, which kind of hasn't fully worked. That's an issue. Yeah.
And I don't think Ben Simmons is experienced enough, and I don't think Joel Embiid is mature enough to run a team. So far, neither of them have proved that they can. They don't really have any experienced older players that can step up and sort of take on that role. So it's got to fall to the coach. And in that respect, D'Antoni's going to be better. He's going to be possibly more well respected. And I'm so interested to see how they set up with him as coach. So that's what I want to see out of this, but don't know if it happens.
What were your thoughts on him going to the Pacers? Do you think that? I think that we both think that the pieces they've got at the moment would fit his offense a little bit better.
Definitely.
They definitely have to move away from Miles Turner, who we've spoken about a lot on this pod.
Yeah. But I think that's a player that feasibly you can move away from. I think teams would pick him up in a trade or whatever's needed because he's not great, but he's not awful. He's just sort of one of those middle of the road players. You could plug him into a team at that centre position, get him, and under a good coach, he could become a massively like a threat under the rim defensively, certainly. Or maybe even under D'Antoni, he could completely change him up. I think the pieces fit better there. It's just who's got the biggest wallet.
Yeah, D'Antoni might see 76ers as not the best style fit, but obviously potentially more money and more all-stars, which might swing it for him because he doesn't want to be a middling team coach, does he? He definitely wants to compete because that's what he's done at the Rockets. Yeah, interesting to see. Obviously, we haven't mentioned this as much in the rundown, but I'll spring it on you now. I like to do that sometimes. You love Ty Lue because of his Cavs success. He is favourite now for 3 jobs with the bookies in the NBA. He's favourite for the 76ers job. He's favourite for the Pelicans job, who we haven't spoken about yet, the Gentry firing in terms of these 2 coaches. And he's also now favourite for the Rockets job. I know you like Ty Lue, so for him, if you could pick anywhere out of not those 3 or anywhere else, where do you see best fit for him as a coach? Because I know you kind of want him to get back into head coaching, don't you? So what do you think the best fit is? Do you think it's the Rockets because of the All-Stars, or do you think maybe the Pelicans because they're so young he can reinvent them?
Yeah, I quite like him at the Pelicans. I'd quite like to see him put his own stamp on a team, and I'd love to see the Pelicans develop and become a great team because that Pelicans team has got some personalities on as well. We know he's good at that kind of that role and that side of things. But I'd love to see him put his stamp on a young team like that and help them kick on through the Western Conference ranks over the next couple of seasons. I think that'd be really interesting to see. I think that'd be my pick. What about you?
I think that would be the most interesting one. I think that fit there. But I think for him personally, again, with the money and championship winning aspirations, he might see, I don't know, maybe the 76ers is the best job for him, just because he might want to try and win another title. Obviously, he's already done that once and he wants to do it again. I think that the best fit is probably the Pelicans, like you said, but I think he might lean one of the other jobs just for financial and career purposes. But for me, I think he doesn't want to be another one-year wonder, does he? I think that he should seriously consider a younger team where the Pelicans are not expected, are they, to win the league next year? He could go there and be part of a 2 or 3 year development, couldn't he? And I think that might be better for him overall, but I'm not sure whether he'll see it that way. I think he might just want to take the opportunity to jump at a head coaching role because he's been out of the league for a little while, head coaching wise, and he declined obviously the Lakers job. So we hear last summer. So I wonder if he'll just want to take the team of the best players. But I agree with you that the best fit might be the Pelicans, but I'm not sure his agent, who will be telling him who to listen to, will feel that way. But we'll have to see. One coach we know that isn't leaving, with news coming out this evening, apparently, is Mr. Luke Walton. Apparently, he's the coach for the Kings to start the next season. I'm not sure. I've seen 2 reports. I hope whether they use the word start next season or for next season. Maybe not quite confirming their true confidence in him for the whole year, but I'm just not sure what they're doing, the Kings. I think we could be heading to another tanking year, which what does that do? I'm not sure. They don't have a great history of drafting players. They could have had Luka Doncic twice and they didn't want him. So that's a bit of a weird one. But Luke Walton, I loved him when he was at the Warriors. I thought he was going to be a really good coach. But unfortunately, sometimes you're just a bit of a pretender. And I think at the Lakers and the Kings, he's kind of shown to be very one-track minded. He falls out with players a lot. We've heard a lot of stories, haven't we, about star players not being happy with the way he coaches. So I don't think he's a very good coach. So I think that the Kings maybe shouldn't have done this, but there's so many jobs available now that who would take the Kings job over any of the others? I'm not sure many would. So maybe they're just kind of left in a bad situation. But what are your thoughts on the Kings as a whole organisation and Luke Walton as a coach with them for next year?
Again, it's one of those teams that the roster's starting, just as it's starting to look quite good, and they're starting to pick up steam as a team. The management and everything behind the scenes starts to fall apart. Luke Walton's obviously not been on, I don't know, maybe he's not been at the right team, but he's so far shown that he's not a good head coach. He could be an excellent assistant coach, and that's what sort of kind of fooled everyone into thinking he'd be a good head coach, because I imagine the difference between the two is huge. When it's everything's on your shoulders, you've got to be able to run the show, haven't you? And he struggled to do that at the Lakers, and he's struggling to do that at the Kings. Whether it's his management style, whether it's his playing style, whether it's his coaching team that he likes to have around him, whether it's all of the above, it's just not working out for him. But yeah, the Kings are short-handed, really. That's the thing, that I think they could attract a different coach. There's coaches out there looking, or maybe they take a chance on someone a bit different, maybe make some headlines, maybe go for what's her name, the assistant coach from the Spurs,
Becky Hammon.
Yes, Becky Hammon, and just be that team, take that chance, because it's going to bring you hugely positive media attention. And
Popovich raves about how good she is. So
exactly, you're going to get a sort of a Popovich understudy, which we know have a proven track record of coaching well, at least in the regular season, maybe not in the playoffs. But
the Kings get into the playoffs with this start.
Well, that would be an absolute bonus for them to start with, wouldn't it? Let's concentrate on getting them into there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think maybe it's time to take a risk with them.
Do you think that what I said in terms of maybe there were so many jobs available, so many attractive prospects, that maybe they thought that they would be left with the worst option, so maybe they wanted to kind of give it another year and see who isn't in a job next summer or midway, and maybe kind of take the less risky route of just seeing what's available then, rather than fire your coach and then kind of get turned down by all your candidates and then having to pick an option you don't want, maybe, or you just think that they're so poorly run that they think Luke Walton might be a good coach and that they could be proved wrong?
I think they could be so poorly run that they're hedging their bets. I feel like they should maybe be more aggressive with this and go out and hunt down the head coaches, because you could get 6 months down the line from here and think, oh, actually, we want to get rid of Luke Walton, and Becky Hammon stepped into the head coaching position at the Spurs, when actually, if you'd approached her in the summer, you would have got her. And you've now spent an extra 6 months under the coaching system of Luke Walton. If somebody steps in now, it's going to be a horrible back half of the season, really, for your players at least, to adapt to this whole new system, when they could have been getting used to the new coach over the summer. I say over the summer.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you're going to miss an off season, like you said, aren't you? That's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of teams use these off seasons, obviously, to rebuild. You've got a lot of time, haven't you, to develop players and to develop a system. But you're basically wasting all that time if you're not 100% sure that Walton's the guy and you fire him mid-season. Exactly. And also, obviously, they've got a good pick again this year. So whoever you pick is going to be not necessarily a Walton player, but at least is going to fit the current scheme, because you wouldn't draft a player who doesn't, but that might not necessarily fit the next coach. So I agree that maybe this summer they should be more aggressive after obviously firing the GM and kind of gone all out and rebuild from now. But unfortunately, they've kind of stuck with Walton, which I hope it proves them right, to be honest, because Kings fans have been very unlucky. But personally, I agree with you. I don't think that it's the right move to make.
No, So difficult. I do feel for the Kings. Like I said, they just start to get things ticking over, things running well, and
Mm.
seems to fall apart for whatever reason. So, watch this space.
Yeah, and they've got Bogdanovic, obviously a free agent that maybe doesn't want to play for Luke Walton, and that could impact him, and he could leave because of that. We don't know. And obviously they've got Marvin Bagley hanging around with a lot of injuries, and he's a player that kind of Luke Walton likes, and whether or not he's the right player to lead the team in the future, we're not sure. But we'll have to wait and see, like you said. And kind of, I know a couple of Kings fans, a lad called Jack in the NBA UK fans group chat. He's absolutely fuming with the decision, and his tweets kind of voiced the majority. I think that most Kings fans wanted Walton gone, but we'll have to see how it goes. On to a little bit more NBA news, maybe no coaching news, but other NBA news. The Clippers players, Ben, they're frustrated apparently in Paul George's star status. One report said today. Apparently, it's from a good source around the team that they're not happy with how Paul George is treated by the franchise, by the fans, by the media, as kind of being this true second star. They kind of feel that this is allegedly a couple of role players that said this, that feel they're on his level and they're not treated the same or paid the same. My first thought was, if he's not a star player and you trade 7 picks for him, good luck with your future. But I think this kind of showed the what we thought about the squad, didn't it? That they seemed quite disgruntled and they didn't have the right attitude. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the report?
That's all it is. The players with the biggest voices on that team are some of the worst players on the team. Well, maybe not the worst players on the team, but like these comments will be being made by people like Pat Beverley. Like, all right,
Harrell, yeah.
Or how you're good for 15 minutes a game. Pat, you offer defense, nothing on offense, and you just yap, can't back it up. Harrell, opposite, you offer a bit of offense, nothing on the defensive end for a big man.
Yap it up a lot.
Yap it up a lot. Whereas Paul George has a history of being not like a superstar in the NBA, but a star in the NBA.
A great regular season player, at least.
He's had a terrible postseason this year. But his postseason wasn't too bad last year. He sort of carried that Oklahoma City team really through certain games. The main problem, I think, is he needed to, or Kawhi needed to, step up earlier in this postseason and be vocal and say, I am the leader, I am running this team, everything goes through me. But Kawhi's too quiet. He's not going to do that on the court. He might say stuff under his breath, like to whoever it was that he gave that last shot up for.
Reggie Jackson. Yeah.
Reggie Jackson. I gave that up for that. Little comments like that. But he's not on the floor telling players where they should be, what they should be doing this, doing that, doing this. And I think Paul George suffered from not sort of, he was playing bad offensively, but he didn't lock in defensively either. He was just there. Like, he didn't step up in any capacity. If he'd done one and not the other, then maybe they could have still be in and they wouldn't be having this discussion. But there's too many personalities that don't contribute on the court on that team.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I agree. I think if this report is to be true, obviously we don't know. It's just a report that what's been said. But I think this postseason run is basically been what stirred this up. I think losing earlier than you thought and kind of the way Paul George played in the playoffs, especially against Dallas, kind of would have led to this. And I agree that the other factor that would have led to this is the personalities of the rest of the team and maybe the people that have said it. That kind of leads me on to a bit of a bigger Clippers discussion before we move on, because we're doing well for time. What would you do? Would you trade a couple of those role players for another, not star, but maybe more of a two-way player? Would you just trade certain players for attitude reasons and kind of move past the basketball thing? Would you fire Doc? What's your initial thoughts on kind of how to turn this team from a second-round loss team to title challengers like they should be, to be honest?
Power play. Get rid of the 6 men of the years.
I like
Trade
that.
Lou and Montrez, because people will bite on that, and you'll probably get quite good packages back.
Yeah.
Whether it's a
I
pick,
trade Marcus Morris as well, by the way.
yeah, and just
Trade
say
him.
you buy like you're almost calling them out. Like, these are the players that didn't buy into our team, didn't buy into our system, because this all sprung up from Paul George, didn't it? After the loss, him confronting the team and saying, "Look, we didn't play well enough. We didn't have the right attitude. We need to come back refreshed and go at it again next season." And the team met him with eye rolls. But actually, that's more of what I want to see from him and hear from him. All right, it's come at a bad time when you're out of the playoffs, but if you have
Yeah.
that the entire season next year and he steps up into that leadership role, brilliant. That's exactly what you need. You need someone who is the superstar to be the leader on a team for the personalities like that. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Do you think that is kind of a move that could help them next year and the future? Because you kind of recoup some of those picks as well. So it gives you a bit of a short-term outlook and a long-term outlook. Is that part of your thought process?
Yeah, definitely. I think teams, there'll be clubs out there that'll be high enough on Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell to offer you a player and a half decent pick. Especially, there's so many teams now looking for that bench instant offense.
Mm-hmm.
Lou Williams could go to any team in the league, really.
And Harrell's young as well, to be fair, which is on his side, and they're both awful defenders as well. So you kind of can improve your bench defense as well with that. And last question on the Clippers or topic, I wanted to mention how we spoke about this, didn't we, on our WhatsApp? But next summer, so not this fake summer that's going to be in the winter, the next real summer, whenever that happens, both players can leave with player options. Obviously, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. How risky is it for this Clippers organisation after trading those 7 picks and Gilgeous Alexander and Danilo Gallinari, which is crazy? Looking back now, it was like an awful trade, personally. But how worried would you be if you're a Clippers fan that one or two of them could walk away and the future's going to be bleak just because of the lack of picks? Or do you think they've got enough players to kind of middle into a playoff team if at least one of them stays? Maybe I was thinking more of a Paul George is probably more likely to stay long term. What are your thoughts on the long term future for the team?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that second part. That if one of them stays, whatever they've still got around them, there could be a middling playoff team, definitely. Yeah, they might even luck out and be one of those teams that actually, with one superstar, we play a bit better. But they've got to commit to it and run it back next season, really, and see what they can, unless they can get something good in a trade. I mean, Dangle's
there's a lot
out there, but
yeah, there's a lot of pressure, isn't there? I think for them to win next year now. I think they kind of pressure on them to win this year, but by going out when they did, there's a hell of a lot of pressure on them to go. I'd probably say all the way through and win a chip. I think that's what they need to do to keep this roster together. Would you agree?
the trouble is this was their season to do it because no Golden State.
Yeah, true.
The Lakers have looked real dodgy since going into the bubble, and when you compare the rosters side by side, I give it to the Clippers every time.
Yeah. And the Bucks went out early.
Bucks went out early. You're looking at the matchups. Most of the big sort of star players that they could come up against, they've got the best wing defenders in the league and should be able to contend with those kind of teams.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, yeah, they should be annoyed with themselves. They should have won it this year. And I think unless they make finals next year, this whole thing is a failure. And I think they will walk away unless they make finals next year. But there's less chance of them making it next year. Like, this was it. With Golden State back, the Lakers settled into a year of this. Nuggets are only going to improve because all their players are young. Teams are going to come back fighting next year and be better. Are the Clippers? Don't know.
Yeah, I think the Lakers and Warriors are going to be a lot better next year. And obviously the Warriors. They're the worst worst record in the NBA. But I mean, they're going to be back to how they were, if not obviously worse slightly because of Durant. I know, but at least back to a level which is contending. And I agree with you that if they don't get to the finals next year, there could be a bit of a blow up. And we spoke about it before that they got permission to build their new arena in Inglewood, and they're spending a lot of money on this franchise. And if it goes wrong, you could have spent a lot of money on a franchise that's going back towards the bottom of the West. And there's a lot of young teams now growing in the West. Like we spoke about how many times we said about the Pelicans roster and the Mavs rosters. If you don't get this right, you could be a bottom playoff or out of the playoff team in 2-3 years time, and that is not a place you want to be after spending the amount of money they're spending. But we'll have to see. They're going to still be one of the favourites for next year, so their fans will be hoping they can bounce back and with a couple of changes can go again. I'll never doubt Kawhi, but I just think their attitude stunk this year, and they need to regroup over the fake summer, as we're going to call it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Cool. Last couple of bits of news. One positive, one negative. I'll go with the positive first. Don't want to make Ben too sad. Actually, this might make Ben sad. Giannis, the two-time MVP winner. I shared on my Twitter that he won me a large amount of money, so thank you, Mr. Giannis. Hilarious that he got this award outside the bubble when everyone thought he'd be getting it in the finals. We kind of knew this was happening, mate, didn't we? But for a European player to win back-to-back MVPs is crazy, and maybe something we didn't think we'd ever see in our lifetime.
No, it's incredible, and it is 100% well deserved. The stuff he did in this regular season is obscene. The stats that he was racking up in the minutes that he was playing is absolutely crazy. He was a monster, an absolute machine, and no one can take that away from him. Whatever you say about this postseason, no one can take away the fact that he was a beast this year and last.
It's a regular season award, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the key.
I think I might have said it before, but I think Rachel Nichols has said it as well. There needs to be 2 awards: your best player and your best player that year. Because there's a big difference between the two, and maybe give one at the end of the season, so include the postseason if you want to do it that way.
You've had a lot of things. Obviously, a lot of people say about a regular season MVP, playoff MVP, and then a finals MVP, which I think makes the most sense because the same winner could win all 3, couldn't it? But that's just life. But obviously, some years like this year that wouldn't be the case, and you could have 3 different winners, and it can help reward people for a good year or a good playoff run, which is nice to see. But you also get the fact that it can add to their career lineage. Obviously, some people rely on these sort of awards, don't they, for how they're viewed in the future and Hall of Fame votes and how they're judged in, I don't know, GOAT debates, for example.
Yeah.
And I think it could just add an extra little bow to how we view basketball. And I think it's a good idea. I think 3 awards. I still always want a finals MVP because it's the most tough thing to do, isn't it, to win an actual finals? But
definitely.
I agree with you that this is a regular season award, and people need to stop harping on about like LeBron only 16 votes because he takes regular season games off. We all know that. If it was a playoff award, he'll be up there. AD would be up there, for example. So I agree with you that there needs to be a little bit more to it, and Giannis is definitely deserving, and he's so young as well. And I think he's only one of 8 players, is it, that have won back-to-back? And obviously the last person to do it was Steph, so really big for him and his family. And the Bucks just need to sort out getting him a decent playoff run.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. That's the reason. That's the only reason this debate is going on at the moment, is because they're out, and LeBron's just doing what he has been doing his whole career. He's doing whatever it takes to try and get his team the victories, whether that's triple double, whether that's just having a night where he just scores, whether it's just blah blah. That's what I mean. Like Giannis 100% deserves that MVP, and LeBron should be second or third or wherever. But for a separate award, the actual best player in the league, he's probably still up there. Giannis will be further down because he offers less overall, like with his shooting. He's predictable.
especially in the playoffs, like we said before.
Exactly. Then you'd be looking at, more of like a LeBron or a Luka or an AD, players that can do more things. And
yeah, and you're kind of taking in the playoffs, aren't you, as well? Because the
yeah,
finals MVP is just for those final, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, how long it goes. The regular season MVP obviously goes to the end of the regular season. Technically, this time it actually only went up to the end of the pre-lockdown season, and you're kind of just forgetting huge amounts of games in the middle because a lot of these playoff series go quite deep, and the amount of games we play that don't really have any impact on any awards because it doesn't impact first team in the NBA either. So
no.
I agree. I think they need to add an award, and we all know that the NBA absolutely love airtime. So if they can add an award and another ceremony and stuff, I don't think they'll be opposed to doing it. I just think maybe they've got to get past some old school basketball historians that maybe kind of only want one award.
Yeah, it's a
But
bit of a flawed system.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're on the same page, definitely. And I think we're on the same page that Giannis is MVP and LeBron would be playoff MVP if there was that award. But cool, let's move on to the last little bit of news. Like I said before, not good news in many ways, but I understand why it's happening. Mr. Adam Silver, a friend of the podcast, even though he doesn't know it, he's come out today, I think, or maybe yesterday, sorry, and he said that the NBA, he's not even confirmed this either, that this is early as this, but he cannot see the NBA reasonably starting before January. So basically, January the earliest is what you can see at the moment, but that's rough date as well. It could even be later than that. So they're going to miss that Christmas Day revenue that they kind of didn't want to lose, which is a real big shame. And I know it's a shame for basketball fans in America because they love those Christmas Day games. And I know a lot of UK fans do as well, don't they, Ben? Because the tip-off times are so friendly for us.
It's about the only day I can watch 3 or 4 games at a reasonable time.
Yeah, before the bubble environment, it's probably one of the better days for a UK basketball fan, if you've got a forgiving family. But yeah, unfortunately, it looks like January the earliest, maybe February. Martin Luther King Day has been discussed as like another big holiday that's not the same as Christmas, but could get eyes on the telly. January, I'd worry about them with their ratings because of the NFL playoffs. I think February is more suited for that. But also, the longer you leave it to wait, the harder it is to start up. And I know that they're going to kind of want to take their time, aren't they, to try and work out how they do next season because they can't do a bubble for a whole year. So, what are your thoughts on kind of the delay and what decisions they need to make and when for how we're going to start next season?
I think I quite like the way Adam Silver's going about it so far. Again, like I think it'd be silly for him to come out this early on and be like, "Yeah, confirmed this date, blah blah." For him to come out and say, "We're thinking about January," it's starting to get that in the players and the fans' heads, thinking, "Right, okay, it's a bit later than I thought it might be, but at least we're going to see it." And start chucking other dates around. So then when it actually does happen, it doesn't seem like a massive shock to the system. And especially if it starts in February, this next season, there's no way they could do it in 82 games. This would be a great season to then maybe do like almost like a Premier League season, just do a home and away fixture, maybe do an extra one for teams in your in your area, in your division, and then go into playoffs and just do rather than split East and West, just go 1 through wherever you're positioned and just experiment with it this season.
Yeah, they'd have to do a lot of changes, wouldn't they? Which they're sometimes a bit adverse to doing, stuff like that. But I agree with you that it's going to be a right struggle, isn't it, to try and get a normal length season in with the time frame that they're kind of giving out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be impossible to fit 82 games in that. They're playing nearly every other day with some back-to-backs in there already. It's impossible.
Yeah. And that's October, obviously, so you're losing October. If they just say they do start of January, they're losing October, November, and December anyway, aren't they? So
yeah,
that's a bit of a nightmare already. And the other factor I wanted to talk to you about, because obviously it's a little bit more relevant to the UK, even though we're never going to win it, but one of the reasons they wanted to move to Christmas Day was because it could still fit in the Olympics. If you move to January, February, and you go full length, well, I know you can't go full length really, but if you go full length or nearly full length in some sort of format, they're gonna miss the Olympics, aren't they? For sure. These European and these American players. It's going to be very strange for that kind of prize. That I know the Dream Team's famous, but a lot of European countries value the Olympics so highly. These nations that people don't know love basketball as much as they do. You know, your Greece's,
Lithuania.
Slovenia's, obviously, yeah, Lithuania, France, and then obviously across the pond, Australia are absolutely mad about the NBA and about basketball. So that'd be a huge shame to miss this whole huge pool of players that couldn't play, or whether they would stop playing for a month or they wouldn't compete in the playoffs, whatever. I think it's going to be a real struggle time-wise.
Yeah, like I said, I think cut it right down. Just do a home and away fixture. Go straight into the playoffs. Bang, 1 through 16, just for this season, and then reassess it over the summer. Have a talk with the players. Have a talk with the coaches. Have a talk with the owners, and see how it's worked. You can always extend it again next season, or go back to the way it was, or keep the 1 through 16, do the home and aways, and then chuck in an extra home and away game for your division. Whatever you want to do next season, that's next season. But for this one, what's the harm? And as well, it's better for the players and the fans because there's less chance of exposure if this is all still going on. They're traveling less, they're playing less, and so there's less chance of anything happening to these teams. It just seems to make sense to me. Hopefully it does to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be one of the key things, isn't it? How they plan this strategy. And if there is a chance, where you want to make any changes or try anything out, this is going to be the year to do it. Obviously, they've already tried a bubble out, which means they can, and a playing game, which means they can try an in-season tournament eventually. But yeah, they could use this maybe to change how they structure the league, which could be quite fun. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm quite hopeful they'll make the right decisions regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see. In terms of current basketball, then let's move on and talk about the playoffs, Ben. Western and East. Yeah, we'll go West first, but in general, both series are tied 2-1. We'll start with the West. The Lakers winning 2-1 versus the Nuggets, obviously. Game 3 was last night. The Nuggets clawed it back in a game. I think you'd agree, mate, that they had to win, or else they're probably going to get swept. There's no way you could win that series being 3-0 down. No one's ever done it. What are your thoughts overall on the series and maybe Game 3 as a whole? Because I know that the Nuggets relied on a few key scorers last night.
Yeah, I think the Lakers' best game so far was Game 1. Game 2, I think, was the Nuggets' best game, and then this Game 3, the Lakers' first half played really well, got out to a nice, comfortable lead, and then just lost the plot, turnovers, absolutely costly, and just gave the game back to the Nuggets, and the Nuggets took it and ran. There were a couple of ridiculous shots, though, from the Nuggets going up and going in. The one where Jokic is being absolutely smothered by AD, and he still managed to turn one leg fadeaway over the top. Longest 2 you've ever seen. What a shot that was. You can't take it away from them. The Nuggets, they took what they were given and made an absolute meal out of it. They were incredible and out rebounded the Lakers. How have they done that? One of the biggest teams in the league at this point, with essentially two centers. They out rebounded them. So fair play to the Nuggets in that last one. I feel like the Lakers are going to come out with a bit more fire in their bellies in the next one and go for the jugular. I think really try and put them under the cosh. How did you feel about Game 3?
Yeah, I think I said before the series we couldn't do a preview pod unfortunately because of the whole scheduling issue. But the Nuggets were only going to win any games with either Jokic or Murray probably scoring 40, 45 plus, or a third player that you don't expect getting in the mid-20s. And obviously Jeremy Grant was that man last night. I think he scored, I don't know if it was 25 or 26 or something around that range. And that's huge for them. He's not a known scorer. He added scoring to the team. They had a couple of other players that had the 10 to 12 mark, which the Nuggets always get, but they still need that third player to get in the 20s to stand a chance of scoring against LeBron and AD, who've kind of scored well in every game. Like you said, turnovers have kind of been the Lakers' issues when in the game they've not won. But scoring definitely isn't the issue. So for the Nuggets, they needed that third player, which they got in Game 3. If they don't get it in Game 4, they're not going to win. As simple as that. I just don't think the Lakers are going to let Jokic, especially, score 40, 50. And Murray can do that, but they've got a lot of bodies to throw at him. So I think they needed that third player. But I just found that it was a much needed win for us as fans as well. I think that with teams like the Clippers and Bucks going out, we didn't want to just see sweeps in both conferences. So I like the fact that it's gone to a Game 5 at least.
Oh yeah, it makes it more interesting, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, if anyone hasn't checked out our Twitter page, we put our previews there. I think you said Lakers in 5, or was it 6?
I'll say 5. I think I'll double check.
Yeah, and I said Nuggets in 7, but I stipulated that it was biased because I don't like LeBron. But I did not see it going 4 or 5. I thought the Nuggets were just in too much of a rich vein of form. So it's kind of nice for them to get that win. In general, I just wanted to mention that I think Jokic and Murray are just playing like true superstars. Obviously, Murray's not a top 10 NBA player. I understand that. But I think he's kind of proving at a very young age that he's up there as one of the better guards in the league. And we've had a debate previously in our off-season pods about best players in the league. And I think Jokic has nailed down the best centre in the NBA without a shadow of a doubt for me now, if you're not classing AD as a centre, obviously. So I've been impressed by how they played. But in terms of the Lakers, AD's been amazing all series. LeBron's obviously is LeBron. Kind of, he doesn't get mentioned as much sometimes because he is LeBron. That phrase of LeBron is kind of harsh on him because he's doing great things. But the Nuggets have had to win a game with kind of AD having AD games. And I just think that they would need AD to kind of have an off game or two now to have a chance of winning the series. But I just wanted to shout out that Jokic and Murray have impressed me a lot, and AD has kind of got over that start of the bubble form, and he's just being like a true superstar that we all know he is in the last couple of games.
Yeah, it's a real good bout. Like, you hit the nail on the head with Murray and Jokic. They are superstar players. It's good. I like seeing this aggressive Jokic that he's looking to score as well as pass. Really love to see that. And Murray's just been an absolute magician with the ball. Like, I didn't really rate him massily until this season, and he's shot up my rankings hugely. Yeah, you're right with LeBron. He had a bit of a terrible game too, especially in that second half. Still came away with like 20 plus points or whatever, and then last night turns up with 30, 10, 11, 2 steals, 2 blocks on 60% shooting, which
crazy,
just unreal. But it came with 6 turnovers. Anthony Davis had 3, Rondo had 4. You know, you can't be making those mistakes against a team like this that are not offering the same, because the Lakers do like to get out and run, and that's where they score quite a few of their points on the fast break, on turnovers, good defense. But if you're giving this Nugget team 16 turnovers, they're going to capitalize on it. So I think they'll tighten that up next game and come out with another convincing win. And I did say Lakers in 6.
Okay, cool. Are you sticking with that prediction?
Yeah, I think so. I think
they
might come out and turn the screw in this one and maybe lax off in the next one and then finish it off.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I just looked up actually, Murray at the start of the year got a lot of stick actually to just sign his big contract. So he has actually signed this 5-year max contract extension early. So he's on a $170 million contract right now. So I just wanted to say that a lot of people thought that was an overpay, but the way he's playing now, definitely proven not to be. But also, Ben, Jokic is 25, Murray is 23. So really good for that Nuggets team for the future. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr. has just turned 22 as well, so huge career ahead of him on a rookie deal. And I obviously was a little bit tongue in cheek with the Nuggets in 7. But no matter what happens in this series, I think they've got a good future, haven't they? I think they've got those 3 pieces to build around, and if you can do that correctly, build around them in the right way, I think that they've got a lot to look forward to over the next 5+ years, but definitely over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, future's so bright for them. And another great thing that we haven't mentioned is their coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Their coaching has been fantastic throughout, not just this season, but last season, this bubble. They've done themselves so proud, and it's only going to get better. We thought they'd maybe hit their ceiling last year, but they are proving everybody wrong. So fair play to the Nuggets. Good work. I hope they keep it up. It's really good to see them with all the success.
Yeah, they definitely proved us wrong. We had them struggling in the bubble regular season, which they didn't do.
Yeah, even with
you had them losing to the Jazz in the first round. I had them getting smashed in the second round, no matter who it was against. And that didn't happen. So they definitely proved us wrong, which is always nice to see. I'm still going to go Nuggets in 7 because I think we should stick with our Twitter predictions.
Let's go
but
for
if
it.
I was a betting man, which I am, there's no good odds to do it. I would definitely be betting the Lakers in 5 or 6. I just think LeBron's too good, unfortunately. But yeah, definitely a fun series, and a reminder that Game 4 is tomorrow evening. Cool. So let's go on to tonight's game. We have Game 4 tonight in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat are currently 2-1 up against the Celtics. Obviously, as we said, we haven't recorded for a while, so we've missed a little bit of this series. There was locker room issues, Ben, for the Celtics after Game 2. Allegedly, Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown got into it, which has proved to be quite good. Apparently, Marcus Smart said it's the most electrifying he's ever seen a locker room after. And apparently they were refocused, which is nice. One thing we did mention prior in our last pod was Mr. Gordon Hayward saying that he'd be key if he got back, and he is now back. He played in Game 3, and he's also committed to not going home for the birth of his child, which is
huge arms he's come back with. Has everybody seen that? It's been hitting the weights pretty hard. Big mustache.
Huge arms and a huge tash. Yeah, I was going to say, I've noticed a huge tash.
He looks like one of those old school, like heavy lifting gym guys you'd see at a circus.
He also looks a little bit like someone from Fargo, the TV series, for shout out to anyone that's watched that. But yeah, he was a huge addition, made a massive difference there, kind of improved their bench depth so much, and you can add a player like Hayward in your starting lineup or off the bench. And like I said, it's 2-1. The Celtics look dead and buried, but they've got themselves back into it. In terms of the Heat, before I pass over to you, mates, I want to mention I think that Goran Dragic's been a machine. He's really, really impressed me the whole bubble, to be honest, but in this series especially. And my main man, Jimmy Butler, can do a little bit more earlier in games, and I think he needs to do that in Game 4 for them to try and steal back the momentum, as everyone talks about in basketball. What are your thoughts on the series and kind of Hayward being back and the locker room issues we heard about from the Celtics?
It's Marcus Smart, like we've been saying with the Clippers, talking the talk. He's got to consistently walk the walk. But didn't he come out and say teams argue most when they're winning? Was it him?
It might have been him, yeah. Or it might have been, was it Jaylen Brown?
Oh, it might have been, which I thought was quite a funny quote. But I'm really enjoying this series. I didn't think it would go 2-0 up to the Heat off the bat. I thought they might trade a couple of blows. But, yeah, Goran's been fantastic. He could have sat and sulked that he wasn't the starting point guard all season, but his time has come and he is relishing it. There's no way Kemba can stop him. He's just getting whatever he wants. Just walking into the paint, and he can hit a 3 when he's open. He can run in and stop on a dime and pull up, and he can get under the rim and flick it up and in. Like, he's got a real versatile offensive game. So he's been brilliant. Yeah, like you said, Jimmy, he just loves the fourth quarter there, doesn't he? Like, that is his time to shine at the moment. So he's kind of, I don't know, relaxing a little bit at the start of games. But yeah, if he switches on full game, if the Miami Heat, if all their players are switched on throughout the whole of the game, there's no reason why I can't see them coming out with this series win. I saw, what was it? Crowder, 3 from 10 one night, and they were all 3-pointers. He was 3 from 10 from the field, and they were all 3-pointers. Like you can't be offering that and expect your team to win.
No, he was shooting really well as well before that. He was like 14 but he had an absolute mare of a night that night.
It was a shocker. So it's those kind of adjustments you need to make as a player. Like we said with the Clippers, like Paul George, you're not playing well offensively. Put all your effort into defense. Crowder, at a point where you're like 2 from 6 or whatever, do you keep shooting or do you maybe pump fake on one, get the defender out, and then try and take him off the dribble, or like push in and then kick out? Do something a little bit different, change it up, maybe offer yourself differently, or put it all in defensively. I don't know. Hopefully he comes back and still keeps hitting these shots because he's been incredible so far.
They need him as well, don't they, with Iguodala getting that ankle sprain, and he's kind of not the same player since. I think Crowder, crucial player for them on the wing, and the Celtics going to leave him open because of the players that he's got. So it's up to him, isn't it, to kind of take that mantle and either hit the shots or make the right play rather than going 3 for 10 from 3, which is not going to be ideal in Game 4.
And for the Celtics, it just boils down to, can their main 3 players all keep getting in that 20-point margin, and then can a 4th player get 12 to 15 points to tip them over the edge?
And do you have Hayward as that one of those 3 now, and Marcus Smart being pushed back to the 4th man in the team, or you think Marcus is still up there just because Gordon's slowly coming back?
Well, so far, those 3 players hitting the consistent 20s like are Jalen, Jason, and Kemba. With Gordon Hayward, strengthens him massively. So I think it takes a lot of pressure off Marcus Smart. So Marcus can just focus on what he does best, which is defending absolutely everything. And Gordon Hayward can pick up that 12 to 15-point margin, even when he's not feeling his best. If he's got the wind under him, he can hit those mid-ranges like they're nothing. And he's going to be a more consistent shooter than Marcus Smart ever will be.
And he's good size on the other end as well, which helps. He's not just offense only, which is nice because the Celtics obviously pride themselves on being good defensively. So he's not a net negative on defense, which is nice. Yeah,
that's what they'll try and do. Try and maybe switch him on to Goran a little bit more. Try and hide Kemba where they can. Well, that's what I think they need to do.
I saw that they kind of put different players on Goran at times, and they like made Marcus Smart guard him a little bit more, and left Kemba, to kind of guard Crowder or to guard Derek Jones, whoever was in at that time, who's the worst shooter, which is clever. But like you said, Gordon's a bigger body that you can kind of mix and match and put him on him to kind of disrupt him sometimes.
Does make the Celtics seem that little bit more dangerous, and it's obviously worked. They've come back the night he's come back. They've won their first game, so whatever he can offer is going to be better than some of your lower down bench contributors that you might have been having to rely on up to this point. It's such an interesting series. It could still go either way.
It's a fun series to watch as well, which is nice. And big shout out to Mrs. Hayward for agreeing to let him not leave the bubble for the birth of his first son. I know he's just got injured, and this means a lot to them, but it's absolutely crazy to me that he's not going to leave the bubble. But it's very much Celtics gain and very much Mrs. Hayward's loss in terms of dealing with. I think they've got 3 or 4. I have to check, but they've got 3 or 4
this is their
girls
4th
already.
child.
Yeah, so 3 girls and then obviously a boy on the way. Like, she's going to be a busy woman, and I don't want to use the wrong phrase, but she's ready to pop, according to reports. Mr. Hayward staying in the bubble, playing Xbox, and shooting threes.
It makes the saying true, doesn't it? Once you pop, you never stop.
No, there you go.
But that's the thing. He's seen enough childbirth, but by this point they're bored of it. Yeah, it's fine. It's just another kid. You'll be all right. You stay in the bubble. It's fine.
It's another day at the office.
Yeah, exactly. He plays basketball. She gives birth to children. That's just the way it works.
That's the family dynamic.
Yeah.
All right then. So I think before you said, am I right? I think you said Heat in 6, and I said Celtics in 7. Because once again, I have a bet on the Celtics to win the East. When I went 2-0 up to the Heat, I think you were laughing. Your prediction looked spot on. Are you still confident in that overall? I know you said we both think you can go either way. They're very evenly matched, aren't they? But are you still leaning towards that Heat in 6, Heat in 7 because of Butler and co, or you kind of flick to the Celtics now?
I'm sticking with the Heat. I'm going to stick with them, but I feel like if the Celtics can put it together again tonight, momentum might flip. The Celtics might feel like they've got their number now and they know how to run this. And I would be very interested to see how the Heat react to that. Are they like a momentum team that need to keep a couple of wins on the bounce or keep one ticking over just to keep them moving forward? Or can they react to losing 2 in a row? That's what I'm interested to see. Well, I think they've got enough to stop this Celtics team, so I'm going to stick with the prediction. Here we go, Heat in 6.
Nice. I'm going to stick as well. I'm going to stick with Celtics in 7. But I agree with you that really you could see it going either way. I personally don't see anybody not winning in 7, the way this series is going to go. But tonight's game is going to be key. And just a reminder again that obviously it's on Sky Sports, as they all are now. And it's an unfriendly 1:30 tip. So I know our friend from Miami Heat UK, Mr. Dan, is going to have a late night tonight watching his team. So I feel sorry for any NBA UK fans that stay up and watch these playoff games and their team don't win, because it is a late night to be losing the playoff game.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be staying up all that time, especially if you have work the next day as well and have your team lose. That's just the worst. No good.
That is no good. Cool. All right. Well, we're both sticking with our predictions. We got the series tied 2-1, and then I think either this weekend or maybe early next week, Ben, we're going to get together and chat about how they've gone, and we might be moving towards an NBA Finals preview, which is crazy to think. After a few weeks ago, we weren't sure if basketball was going to come back, and now we're heading towards an NBA Finals.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing how these series go. These are some really good finals matchups, and whichever teams make it through to the NBA Finals is going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. I think there's a couple of really good storylines, like that you could pin on any of them. Like if the Nuggets go all the way through to the finals, just what a sort of Cinderella story that is. If
After the Lakers losing in every single one as well.
Yeah, if the Lakers go through and like they play the Heat, and if they beat the Heat, then it's like LeBron sort of beating his old team. If they play the Celtics, it's the Lakers beating their old rivals, and like all of that can contribute to this whole everything to do with Kobe. Like it's such a nice way of sort of capping off that year for the franchise. If the Heat come through, like it's such an amazing thing for Jimmy Butler, like that scrappy team.
Underdog story, isn't it?
Yeah, hard work pays off. And if the Celtics come through and win it, it's that depth of roster, that versatility, great coaching pays off. Like there's so many positive angles coming through from these series. So, it's brilliant. So good to see.
Definitely, I agree, and I think that's a good place to leave it there, especially with my dog barking like hell in the background, which might show up on the podcast. But yeah, we'll plan on getting together soon again to review these games, and then maybe even watch a finals game together. Ben, we'll have to see how the schedule fits. But yeah, cheers for this. Cheers everyone for listening. Enjoy NBA playoffs, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.